Joking about it, but like, how many school visits do you think you've made over the years?
I don't know. I've been here for 14 years. Sometimes it happens off season, sometimes it doesn't. But I know for sure it happens on the off day of while I'm in season. So let's just call it 16 by 14. You know, with some 17s in there. Little, probably maybe just over 200. A lot of the same schools. There's some repeat schools in there. You know, shout out to all the McDonald's. 26, 35, 14. There's a lot of McDonald's out there.
Is there a day where you just don't feel like doing it?
Isn't there a day that you don't feel like going to work, but you go to work? The answer is yeah, on days that you're like broken, you're like, I'm barely getting out of bed. How do I start this day off? But at the same time, those kids bring energy back into your life. It's like having kids at the house, you know, when it's like they don't really care whether they care if you lost, but they don't care that, you know, what you're feeling like. You come in and bring in a positive message and a positive energy, you get something back out of it. So when I go in and we talk about leadership, when I go in, we talk about, you know, bullying, or we talk about academic success, and you give them a physical representation of what success can lead to. It wasn't, you know, that I had all A's until I got to high school, or the first time I brought home my first C, and my parents took me out of football alone, and it meant that much more to me to get back onto the field, or you know, just the success it was to be able to go to the number one public university in the nation, like the University of California at Berkeley. But it's the ideology that a positive impact can be created and you not know it. So 14 years ago when I was going to these schools, and it was like me and like Akeem Hicks, or me and, you know, Will Smith back in the day going to hospital visits or whatever it was, you don't realize what you've done until 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14 years later. And you see, you know, those kids like, hey man, you came and visited me when I was at my lowest point, or you came and talked to my classroom, and now that I try and give back in this way, that those positive impacts help create everlasting positive impacts.
What was your genesis? Was it Steve, your dad?
Man, Steve or Anita, you know, when you have two parents that give so much, whether it's my dad, you know, he used to go to those football camps, and you're like, you know, you go with them. You're like, why isn't my dad paying attention to me? Because he's paying attention to all these other kids. Or you have all these friends in the world that come through your house, and your mom goes out of her way to feed them. She goes out of her way to drop food off to neighbors, to neighborhoods, to kids that she knows are struggling. When you have two parents that have giving hearts, you're just a byproduct. You know, and I feel like I'm sort of competitive in everything I do. When I have teammates like Tyron Matthews and Demario Davis, and you look out into the league, you got guys like Calais Campbell. Back in the day, you had Steve Smith giving out shoes towards kids out in Carolina. It's like, man, whatever I'm doing, I feel like I'm not doing enough. So you start off the partnering with Crescent City Corps. You create, you know, a coalition of athletes that you can mentor, and you go in through these schools and you pick up different mentees, and you know you feel like as they get to college, you can like, all right, you're grown now, go on, and they never leave. You realize that these positive impacts just sort of happen over time, but they're creating hopefully a better sense of community.
What would it mean to you to win it? Everybody knows who Walter Payton is and what it means.
Right. I mean, that's huge in itself, to even be nominated for the award, because you know it's a nod to the community work that you're doing, as well as to win the award. I don't even know if I could put it in words, because it's something that I've been nominated for previously, and at the same time, it's just a kudos to work being done, and it's almost like a challenge to continue elevating the level of commitment you have to your community.
What made
No, finish. Come on.
What made you want to start a scholarship?
I mean, it's probably because I've been in so many schools and I see these impacts, and at the end of the day, we're talking, and it's like, you know, I've had random kids like, all right, well, if I, you know, whatever it was, if I get a 4.0, would you pay for college? The answer is yeah, you know, like depending on the situation, whatever it is, and then we follow up, and it's like, oh, it's like I'm still wanting to help. This directly puts into what I believe in is academics can help us all. You know, when I think about kids that are smart enough, kids that are busting their butts, and they still don't have a way to create a new path for them or their family so they could be the first of their family to get a college education, like why wouldn't I want to be a part of that? When I think about the university I went to, and I think about guys who are so proud to be a part of the LSU or Tulane or Xavier or or Southern. How many colleges are available that we need to take advantage of here in New Orleans alone? So it's just another way for me to help. If I always stress academic success, you know, everybody wants to focus on football. Everybody wants to focus on being a professional sports player or partaker of. but your brain never leaves you. You know, your brain your academic talent is going to be a success that you can stand on forever. Eventually, your athletic talents will leave. You can't be 60 out here windmilling unless your name is LeBron James. I don't know. It's just, you know, that's how infinitesimal of a percentage you can win as being an athlete is going to be. But your brain can carry you well into your, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s unless you face something that we didn't foresee coming.
Have you had any of these children that said, "Hey, you once came to my school," like show up with like a mustache and a family of their own?
No, not with family or not with the family of their own. I'm sure they're out there. And gosh darn it, I've definitely, like I said, I've definitely had like 24, 25-year-olds roll up on me. I'm like, oh gosh darn. My rookies are 22, 23. Like, in theory, one of these kids could one day be like, "I remember you come to my school," and that's when I'm like, "All right, guys, it's time."
Have you come to your own child at school?
No, I do. I show up to my kids' school back when they were at. I will be going to eventually, wherever they're at. I'm gonna go, but we just won't publicize that part because, like, they're at a private school. You can't small violin talk, you know, like. It's just, I look at them and I'm like, what? I didn't even get this life, you know? My dad was a football player. I don't remember going to a private school. It's not true. I think I went for 4th and 5th grade. Gosh, 3rd and 4th.
Think?
Yeah, I don't recall those younger years, you know? Those are the years you try and put behind you as fast as you can. 2nd and 3rd grade, whether you say those are the happiest days of your life? No. You're getting told what to do at every point from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Now you just get told what to do because I'm married, you know?
I don't think that stops. Cam, I mean, you kind of touched on this, but I assume you started this when you were a rookie or like early your rookie season, and I mean, you could have been doing anything else on your one off day. So
Yeah.
what kind of pushed you through that in those years? Was it like because of your parents, or?
I mean, think about this. Before I was a New Orleans Saints, like the moment I got drafted as a Saint, as a New Orleans Saint, and I flew in and got a playbook, I was kicked out of the building like 12 hours later. 24 hours later, like, you forget it was a lockout year. So long before I was a New Orleans Saints, I was a New Orleanian. My first friends were a bartender and like somebody else. Like it was a few people that I just walked into. You know, like the first time I was asking people, "Hey, where to eat?" It was real New Orleanians, and that Southern hospitality carried heavy in my heart. You know, coming from the West Coast, we don't have Southern hospitality. We don't have Western hospitality. I don't think that's a thing. But it's Southern charm, Southern hospitality. It's real life. So those first times you get invited over from your neighbors, you're sitting down like, "Oh, well, where do you get this?" And they're telling you all these things. You're just taking it in, you know. So how could I not want to give back to my community off of that? I didn't have Fast Freddy. Fast Freddy, I was in a tent, and I was at was it Wednesday at the Square Jazz Festival type situation, and there was a Saints tent, and I wasn't allowed to be in there, and I was in another tent because I had met people that became friends, that became the Aces, and that was how I was rolling before, you know, Drew Brees through the off-season program at Tulane. I was already here. I was sleeping on Mark Ingram's couch because he was already training out here. I had friends that had nothing to do with the Saints before I had anything to do with the Saints.